Hi, today we're looking at the Pergear 35mm F1.2. This is a very creamy, tone-rich APS-C lens that you get a lot of value out of for $100. I'm going to give you my perspective on it from my time using this for the past couple of weeks, doing a lot of videos, some stills, but overall this is going to be from the perspective of a videographer. What you're seeing right now is the Sony a6100 shooting with this Pergear lens, and this is pretty flattering, I'd say. This is kind of a good shot. It takes a little bit of time to set up. It's a little bit tricky at first, but when you get the hang of it, you can get some really incredible results like these. You know, for a couple of reasons, I think this is kind of like a Nifty-Fifty, a must-have lens, because here's a Nifty-Fifty. 35mm on APS-C is equivalent to about 52.5, so very close to 50 on full frame. So it gives you that really pleasing natural look, you know, something similar to what the human eye sees. So it works for a wide variety of shots really well. And similar to that, it offers you really good value and low light performance. I think it warrants the title, the manual Nifty-Fifty for APS-C. If at any point you want to learn more about this lens or check out its best prices, you can use the affiliate links down below and help support the channel out. Now, shooting all manual, I understand that can be a little bit scary for some people, especially if you haven't really done so before, and especially when you're trying to do it for the first time with video. Because with stills, you're getting in focus, you're taking the shot, and you're done. But with video, especially when there's movement involved, which is much more difficult because of course you need to now keep your subject, which is moving, or your camera's moving, in focus. But what I think is incredible about this lens, and having a lens in general that's only manual focus, is it encourages you to be more in tune with your camera. If you've never had one before, even though your regular autofocus lenses allow you to shoot in manual, chances are you're gonna be a little bit more lazy, so to speak, because you're relying on your camera to get the shot for you. But with a manual lens, all of that responsibility is on you, which might seem daunting again at first, but here's the benefit. You are more in control of that shot. You have the ability to say, I want to go from position A to position B, and I want to rack focus this quickly or this slowly. I can now introduce point A, B, and C and go between them slowly, quickly, and I have more control over it. And these are lessons or skills that you're not really going to develop as quickly or as fast or want to even delve into when you have really good autofocus lenses. There's a benefit to that, of course, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but focusing on what this does great is it enables you to be more creative and try out those skills and get better at manual focusing. When we were shooting last night at the park, we actually had this really cool, I call it a magic bulb, that allows you to get some really cool reflections, refractions, and you can do like a lot of cool tricks with it. And paired with the a6100 in this lens, I really was pleased with the kinds of videos and stills that I took with this. And similar to what we were just saying, I think this is another good example of when you would want to have a manual lens, because when I was using the A7S III and the 50mm, and some of my other lenses as well, the camera, despite this being arguably one of the best autofocus systems, did not know what I wanted to focus on, because you're getting so complicated in here as far as what it's seeing. Am I focusing on the ball itself? Am I focusing on this reflection that it's creating here, or this one here? Especially when you're f1.8, f1.2, getting that shallow depth of field, it doesn't really know what you want to focus on, and it gets confused and it'll go crazy. Here are a couple stills that I took with this camera and lens. I'm not a pixel peeper, and I'm by no means a pro photographer, so if you are someone who likes to go to 500% and compare your images, and you're like, oh, in the corners here it's just not as sharp, or the IQ isn't as great, it's $100, and to my untrained eye, I think it looks really sharp, especially at the center. You're going to love the results, and the people you share it with are gonna love these results that you get, especially when you're shooting at f1.2. If you're shooting people, if you're shooting landscapes, if you're shooting cars, if you're shooting products, f1.2 and the tactile center sharpness just looks really great. One of the biggest things going for it is if you plan on shooting a lot of scenes in manual focus, for example, a lot of those really nice juicy B-roll shots and cinematic short films that you see a lot of content creators, especially on YouTube, are publishing now. If you've ever listened to them talk about their filming process or seen a behind the scenes video, many of the shots that they're doing are actually racking focus manually. Even when you've got a beast of a camera like the a7S III, and one of the main reasons I got this is because it has fantastic autofocus performance as well as low light performance. There are times when it can't focus exactly how I want because I either want it to be slower, faster, or ramp up in some kind of way that you can't program into a camera. And that becomes especially true when you're trying to get pinpoint precision with something like an f1.2 lens. But for the majority of my macro photography, macro videography, especially when I'm trying to shoot these kind of product videos, even though shooting with the a6100 is not going to get me the same kind of video quality compared to the a7S III, I'm willing to deal with those trade-offs in this more controlled environment because of how perfectly that pairs on the APS-C Sony a6100. And with my growing confidence in knowing how to manual focus with this lens, I really love the results. And let's say you're doing shots that don't have any movement in them, or they're more sit-down kind of style videos like this, but you're behind the camera. I think that works really well too. There are times when manual focusing is going to be more reliable. This was especially true with my older systems using the Fuji X-H1, and one of the reasons I wanted to switch out of it. When I would shoot these kinds of styles of videos, even though everything looked like it was in focus and it had eye tracking or face tracking or whatever, even its best lenses would focus breathe or just completely go to the background randomly and stay there for the entirety of the video, and I wouldn't realize it until it was too late and I'd have to re-record everything, and it was miserable. For my X-H1 that I'm still trying to sell here, I had the Pergear 35mm F1.8. That one costed a little bit less, but I'd be more than happy to pay a little bit more to get the performance I get out of this. Its F1.8 wasn't really a true F1.8. It felt more closely to like an F2.4 maybe. The F1.8 performance just didn't match up to my other F1.8 equivalent lenses. The other issue I had with this that thankfully I don't seem to have with this is that had a lot of vignetting in the corners, which I understand is a pretty artistic look, but I like to have more control again over the footage that I shoot, and if I don't want to have that baked into my footage, that's not going to be possible with this. It does take a little bit getting used to manual focusing with this because it's just so small and the actual focusing ring on it is pretty narrow. So if you have bigger thumbs, it might be a little bit more difficult for you, so keep that in mind. But what I do use when I'm manual focusing on other lenses, wireless focusing system like the 𝗖𝗺 here, which is really handy, although it's not perfect. It does come with its good share of bugs. In fact, I don't think I'd really recommend it to the majority of people unless you're already in the 𝗖𝗺 ecosystem like I have my Aircross 2, but I'll talk about that in another video. Using it paired with lens rings, this would go around your focusing point of on your lens, and if you can actually find one that's small enough to fit that Pergear, I think this would be a really cool combo because it actually does have hard stops unlike this 50mm. So I think that's the main takeaway with this video. If that's a lot of what you're shooting, or you want to do these more kinds of fun videos, or you're going to do a lot of interviews, or any other application that is going to require you to shoot in manual anyways, you can save a lot of money and have this as your really sharp, great low light manual lens. Yes, it doesn't have autofocus, but it has this really good trade-off of incredible performance for an incredible price. I think this is one of the best ones you can get, one of the best values, and one of the best focal lengths that you can either start off with, or if you only want to have one manual lens, this is a great focal length. So what are your thoughts on this? I think for its size, weight, and value, it's definitely worth considering and can easily make its way into your kit without costing that much, as well as not taking up that much space. Of course, again, if you want to check out the lens, use the links down below to help support the channel. And until the next one, guys, as always,